Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at the 9 most inspiring animal rescues. Sometimes animals get into a spot of trouble. They then need to be rescued, but these often happen in very difficult ways. Well, here are some of the most inspiring and amazing animal rescue stories. If you have pets, then this video is sure to make you look at them in a whole different light. But before we get into it, why not subscribe and press the notification bell too. Coming up first, we have Iris the Pitbull. We often think of pit bulls as very dangerous breeds of dogs, but in some ways this is actually a myth. Pit bulls can be bred to be very dangerous. However, if they're raised correctly, they can be incredibly well behaved. Well, one day a few people realized there seemed to be a dog crawling around in a bunch of bushes. They didn't want to go too near the dog in case it was rabid or dangerous. But the dog looked very weak, as if it hadn't eaten in a long time, and for whatever reason it would not leave the bushes. The dog would only come out at night for food, and no one could get it to leave the bushes. That's when one concerned bystander phoned up a group named Hope for Paws. This organization helps dogs in need. Amazingly, at night they came to check out the scene. They went to the bushes and realized why this pit bull never left. It's because this pit bull all alone was looking after babies. That's right, this pit bull they later named Iris had 2 babies with her. The reason why Iris was so underfed was because she was giving all the food she gathered to her kids. This just goes to show mothers are not only selfless when they're humans, dog mothers are just as loving. Amazingly, the group did get her to leave her habitat and come somewhere much nicer. Now she and her children are looked after by many humans. She is given many meals and people play and exercise with her every day. Iris is now enjoying the life every dog deserves. But it's so sad she had to starve herself looking after her kids before she was found. Next up is Alaska the polar bear. When we think of animals being rescued, we often picture a cat up a tree. Well, this is not one of those stories. Instead, this story is about the rescue of an animal many people see as a predator. That is, a polar bear. Sadly, Alaska was not floating on a glacier somewhere. Instead, it was performing with a zoo named Suarez Brothers. This is a circus located in Mexico. One day, a circus attendee realized Alaska was very skinny and lethargic. Not only that, Alaska had not been cleaned and was filthy. Polar bears usually have white coats, but Alaska's was more of a dark grey colour. Luckily, an environmental activist did some research and found out more about Alaska. She found Alaska was 20 years old and was living in a cage which was never cleaned. Not only that, Alaska had to sit in this cage in 113-degree temperature all day. Luckily, the activist complained to the authorities and Alaska was taken away from the circus. Some vets actually thought Alaska may not make it and might pass away, but thankfully she was able to be put in a more suitable climate and was nursed back to health. Luckily, Alaska's memory of being in a dirty, boiling hot cage is now a thing of the past. Today, Alaska's in their natural climate. But it sure is sad Alaska spent around 10 years in such bad conditions. Next up is Parineeta the Donkey. In India, donkeys are a very popular animal to carry loads. They're loaded up with things and are used as a means of transportation. Many owners take good care of their donkeys, but sadly some do not. One day a couple found a donkey lying in the middle of the road. They pulled over and realized this donkey had a broken leg. The donkey had been carrying such heavy loads, its legs had actually broken. And instead of helping it, the owners simply abandoned it as they saw the donkey as useless. Not only that, her nose had been cut with a knife. That's because some people think that it makes animals able to take in more air so their lungs can work harder. But this is a total myth and only causes the donkey a lot of pain. Luckily, the couple alerted a group named Animal Rahat. This is a group which helps animals in India. The staffers were able to take the donkey to a retirement home and name it. Now Parineeta has an awesome name and a great home. She is fed very well and doesn't have to carry anything. And amazingly, vets were able to fix her leg as well. It is sad how animals are mistreated and used as some kind of vehicle in some countries. But thankfully, there are always good people and groups out there to help out these animals. Next up is Thorn the Squirrel. One day, some people were walking down their street when they heard what they thought was an unusual bird call. They thought it was some rare bird, so they looked up into the trees. But when they looked up into the tree, that's when they saw a baby squirrel hanging from a branch. That's right, this baby squirrel had been born and somehow got away. For some reason, the mother must have made their nest up in a tree. This newly born baby squirrel was then hanging from a branch after nearly falling. Obviously, baby squirrels do not have the agility adult ones do. So if this one fell from the tree, then it would be no more. Luckily, the people were able to contact a group of wildlife enthusiasts. These people were able to get to the tree and use a ladder to rescue this squirrel. They named the baby squirrel Thorn before releasing it. So next time you hear what you think may be an unusual bird call, look up into the tree and see. You never know, you may get the chance to save a baby squirrel. Next up is Benny the horse. In 2014, a shocking photo went viral online. It showed a horse lying in the middle of a field starving. The image is incredibly shocking, and it was released by a wildlife group. This group is called the Last Stop Horse Rescue. Amazingly, they came across this horse after somebody phoned in. A person had been hiking and saw this horse collapsed in the field. Sadly, this horse had been abandoned in this field with no food. It was starving, but the great people from Last Stop were able to come down and save this horse. Vets said that if they hadn't have intervened, this horse would have passed away within a day. But thankfully this horse, later named Benny, was nursed back to health. It sure is sad how some people can discard animals so easily, but at the same time it shows that just a few good apples can really save the day. Because the black horse was laying down, the person who first saw it actually thought they were seeing a trash bag at first. Luckily they investigated further and found that was not the case. But it just goes to show, if you think something's up with an animal, then call a wildlife group. You never know, you could be saving an animal's life with just one phone call. Next up is Toothless the Sheepdog. One morning, just as he did every day, a man named Cody Leiterheimer was working in his factory. That was when all of a sudden something wandered into the factory. It was a weak, starving, toothless dog covered in fleas. The dog also had cataracts in its eyes and ulcers and fistulas in its mouth. The dog was very elderly and in incredibly bad shape. The factory worker Cody actually thought the dog was coming in because it was passing away. But thankfully Cody decided to step up to the plate and save Toothless. That's right, he named the sheepdog Toothless as it had no teeth. Within a few months, he was able to nurse Toothless back to health. Cody was also able to remove all of the fleas from him. And he was even taken to the vet and his cataracts and ulcers were healed. His fistulas were also removed from his mouth. But he made an even more sad discovery, and that's that Toothless was deaf. But despite this, Toothless now lives a fantastic life. He went from an abandoned sheepdog to luxury living. He now spends his days with Cody's wife, Cassie. Cassie is a stay-at-home mom who looks after Toothless all day. It's so nice that Toothless now gets to have naps, play, and also eat tons of food. And I have to give Cody and his wife a round of applause for saving this poor dog's life. Next up is Teller the Pigeon. One day a businessman was walking on a busy New York street. That was when he noticed something everyone else was just ignoring and walking past. There was a pigeon hopping around on the road, unable to fly. Most people walking around were just getting to work and did not care about this pigeon. In fact, some people in cities see pigeons as very annoying. But this man rushed over and grabbed the pigeon. He then took the pigeon he named Teller to a wildlife rehabilitation center. It was there that Teller was placed in a home with a massive outdoor aviary. Sadly, Teller was not able to fly again. However, Teller was able to get off the ground and to walk around normally. That's a lot better than what would have happened to Teller before, as he was walking around in the middle of the road. Around 50 pigeons are actually hit by cars in New York every month. But luckily this person saved Teller from this fate and was able to rescue him. It's likely that Teller flew into the window of a skyscraper, kind of like how you see in movies. That's the reason why his wing was broken and he was unable to fly. But luckily he now lives in an amazing wildlife center and is cared for around the clock. Next up we have Timber the Pitbull. That's right, here's one more inspiring Pitbull story. One day somebody saw this dog on the side of a road, so they decided to pull over. That's when they made a stunning discovery. They realized that this Pitbull had a bullet wound in its head. Now you may wonder, how on earth would this Pitbull survive? Well, it was taken to a vet and they found out the bullet thankfully just missed its brain. The vet was able to heal this dog and they named it Timber. Despite having such a tough life, Timber was nursed back to health and was never aggressive. Despite the stereotypes around pit bulls, Timber smiles all the time. He never gets angry and never barks, let alone bites. And now Timber's head wound is completely mended and he lives a happy and normal life. And finally on the list of inspiring animal stories we have Larry the Lobster. When we think of animal rescue stories, we don't often consider lobsters. Well, that changed one day when someone visited a restaurant in Virginia Beach, Virginia. They realized the lobster had an arcade-style crane game machine. But instead of getting a stuffed toy, you were able to pick out a lobster. This is very sad and actually broke a few rules. The lobster, which was later named Larry, had not been fed for 3 weeks. Also, its claws were bound very tightly with rubber bands. A concerned customer and employee contacted the authorities. And luckily authorities came and cut the rubber bands off the lobster. The lobster, named Larry after the SpongeBob character, was then released back into the ocean. And seeing as lobsters can live for around 55 years, chances are Larry's still out there somewhere in the ocean. Check out the poll in the top right corner and vote for the most inspiring animal rescue story in this video. I think it's Alaska the polar bear, as that was such a sad story which turned out to be so happy. If you want some more amazing videos, then why not check out my second channel? There'll be a link to that on screen in a moment. But as always, thanks for watching, check out some more videos on screen right now, leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.